Hello everybody, welcome to the Baywatch podcast, where I watch every episode, where I'm going to watch every episode, of the hit 80s/90s show, Baywatch. My name is DJ, but I also go by Donald, but DJ is my nickname, and I'm your host. So let's get started with this crazy episode. Forever and always, I'm always here. Okay, so a little bit of acknowledgement before we dive into the craziness that is this episode. Recently, in their latest episode of the Melrose Place podcast, they gave me a shout out and congratulated me on my new podcast here on YouTube. And I want to thank them so much for that. It really meant a lot to me. I did this partly inspired by them and Allison from Movie Nights. So far, not a lot of people are listening to the episodes, but I'm mainly not doing this just for people to listen to it. I mean, if you listen to it, that's great. If you don't, that's great too. But I'm having fun and enjoying doing this so far, and I want to see, if this is something I can commit to doing. I mean, there are 11 seasons of Baywatch, and I cannot believe that there are 11 seasons, and I'm only on episode 5. I'm going to be binge watching the rest of this week, some more episodes so I can get some more episodes out. Okay, but thank you so much, Melrose Place Pod. I love them so much. And if you are a fan of Melrose Place, you need to check them out. And also, if you are subscribed to Hulu like I am, all 7 seasons of the original Melrose Place are on there for your viewing pleasure. And I recommend that you watch it and also listen to the Melrose Place podcast along with your watching, because they are so funny over there. Anyway, let's dive into this episode entitled The Sky is Falling, Episode 5, Season 1, Episode 5. Air date October 27th, 1989. I was not born yet at the episode's airing yet. I was not born until December 27th of 1989. So, not born yet when this episode aired, but I can't believe soon all these episodes will be 30 years old. And so will I. Anyway, this episode starts with Mitch jogging on the beach, and he notices Captain Thorpe. And for those of you who don't remember, if you didn't watch the first episode that I did, I mean, it was really rough because the fish tank was making noises in the background and I was nervous. But Captain Thorpe is like an older character that used to be a lifeguard before he became a captain. And he's a character actor. The guy who plays him is a character actor. He was on 2 iconic episodes of The Golden Girls playing Blanche's gay brother Clayton, who comes out to her in his first appearance and is getting married to a man named Doug in his second appearance, which gave us the iconic line, "I'd do anything for Doug, and he'd bend over backwards for me." The guy has guest starred in several various television shows, and I think this is the only one where he had a recurring role. Not sure. But he also guest starred in Season 2 and at the beginning of Season 3 of Melrose Place. He played Allison Parker's father on the show, and let's just say it was a very serious storyline, and he played it way too well, which made me kind of not like him. I mean, I used to like him because he was in The Golden Girls, and he was also in one of my favorite disaster movies, Airport 77, Ask Your Grandparents. And I used to like him, but then when he was in those episodes on Melrose Place, and once again, watch Melrose Place if you haven't. Listen to the Melrose Place pod because they can explain it far better than I can, but I'm not going to spoil it for you. And for those who have seen it, you know what I'm talking about. When the storyline comes to its conclusion, and the dialogue that they gave him to do, and the fact that he was comfortable doing it and said it so convincingly was just so creepy, and I just couldn't. His acting for me now is off-putting. But there's their education on Captain Thorpe, whether you wanted it or not, because this episode centers on him, partly. So Mitch says to him, you know, a lifeguard could do that, and he goes, a lifeguard is doing it, Mitch. This used to be my tower. And another thing that you should note, the actor talks like he's a 1940s radio star, and they do a funnier impression of him on Melrose Place pod. I'm sorry. I really love the Melrose Place podcast, okay? I know I'm talking about it a lot in this episode, but I just can't stop because they're just so funny. But I swear, I will try not to bring it up anymore throughout the rest of this episode. Okay, so Captain Thorpe is like, this used to be my lifeguard tower. And he goes, how are you doing? And Mitch says, well, I really don't know. I think Gail is supposed to come back today. We're going to talk about what we're going to do. And then suddenly, hence the episode's title, The Sky is Falling, a plane comes out of the sky and crashes into the ocean. No, it's just a little inky-dinky plane, not some big, huge plane like in Lost. But, a couple, I'm going to call them Mr. and Mrs. Thief because I don't know their names, and they are thieves. Mitch and Captain Thorpe take their shirts off and jump into the ocean, and I could have lived my whole life without seeing Clayton, aka Captain Thorpe, Mr. Parker, without a shirt on. Because I'm a gay man and he does not turn me on, just so you know. And for those listeners out there, happy Pride. Anyway, happy Pride Month. Anyway, they save them, they take them to headquarters, and they are looking in their plane for something. It turns out that Mr. and Mrs. Thief has stolen $2 million from the bank that they work at and stuck it in a suitcase. And Mr. Thief made some sort of device that if it was to fall in the water, which I guess he assumed he would crash the plane because he wasn't a good flyer, that he hits a red button on something that looks like a remote from a remote control car, and it's supposed to bubble to the surface, or come back to the surface, and they go out in a boat, and he pushes the button, and it, of course, does come to the surface, but they don't see it. They look in front of them, on the sides of the boat, but not behind them, and they don't paddle any other where to see it. I mean, wow, who knew the ocean is so big and it's not going to fall, it's not going to come bubbling to the surface exactly where we are rowing the boat. Jeez. So then they get diving equipment to dive underneath the water to look for the suitcase. Because apparently they're going to Acapulco. Don't ask. So meanwhile, Gail is back in town. Played by the wonderfully talented Wendy Malick, who you may know from such classic sitcoms as Just Shoot Me with David Spade, and Hot in Cleveland with Valerie Bertinelli, Jane Leeves, and the hilarious Betty White. I missed that show. Anyway, Gail, we finally find out what Gail does for a living. She's a restaurant consultant for Captain Chow's or something, which has a chain of restaurants all around the world, and apparently I guess she helps them with this. The restaurant is based in Ohio, which is why she has to go to Ohio, and she talks to Mitch and says that since she's got to go back to Ohio early to square some business away with this restaurant there, she wants to take Hobie back to Ohio with her earlier than expected because the summer is still not over. Yeah, summers apparently last really long in Baywatch. So immediately we transition to Mitch's office where they're telling Hobie about what's going on. And Hobie is less than thrilled. He's like, but I haven't even finished lifeguard training, junior lifeguard training yet. And my friends are here. I don't want to go. Now I gotta have 4 days worth of fun. In 2 days I'm gonna be at Todd's house. And he just runs out. And Gale and Mitch don't run after him, even though in the previous episode he overheard them arguing they didn't run after him, and he ended up getting in a boat, escaping to some island full of dead bodies and almost dying. But let's not go and make sure he went to Todd's house, because I'm pretty sure he's okay. Really? And I know that this is the moment where we're supposed to be siding with Hobie here, always being told he's got to go to Ohio, and that it's not fair that they're arguing about who he's going to stay with and where he's going to go. But you don't just yell at your parents and say, I'm going to my friend's house, bye. You ask permission first. I think I have really gotten old. I really think so. Because I would normally be on Hobie's side here, but he just annoys me in this episode. So Gale and Mitch go to Mitch's house, and they are looking at stuff in Mitch's garage of various things that Gale can take back home to Ohio. Mitch is going through old pictures and reminiscing about their honeymoon and different things. And he goes, have you seen my surfer cap? And Gale's like, how would I see your surfer cap? I don't live here anymore. And she goes, where's my ceramic duck? And he goes, I have no clue. So then she goes to get some coffee for the two of them and accidentally drops Mitch's lifeguard mug, breaking it. Mitch goes in to make sure she's okay, and she tells him what happened and starts to cry. He says, oh, it's just a mug. There's no need to cry, I can buy another one. She goes, I burned your surfer cap. And he goes, well, I busted your ceramic duck. Ah, divorce. And for some odd reason, this gets them in the mood to have sex. They kiss and they go to Mitch's bedroom. I kid you not. The next morning, Hobie shows up early from his friend's house and sees that his mother has stayed the night. So he draws the same conclusion as Mitch, that they're getting back together. And then Baywatch actually does something clever and inventive for the time. They flip the script. Mitch goes to Deathglare, aka Craig, and basically tells him, almost with tears in his eyes, I think last night might have been a whole new chapter. I mean, I think we connected on such a spiritual level. I think we're going to get back together. I love her. I'm so excited. I think that we can be a family again. What I mean by flip the script is when you see these types of situations often portrayed on television, if the exes happen to make love, as they say, the woman is always the one that's crying and analyzing over what this means to their doomed relationship, while the man is sort of shrugging it off. He wants it to go in that direction too, but doesn't agonize it over it as much as the woman does. In this particular situation, Mitch is the one who's crying and agonizing over what this means and hoping that him and Gale will get back together and Hobie doesn't have to go to Ohio. And Gale says in the scene we're about to discuss that the sex did not mean anything. And I thought that was inventive. But believe me, You may think that Baywatch was doing something groundbreaking, but of course they ruin it with terrible dialogue. So, Hobie and Mitch are both under the impression that everything is going to be great. They both come home to find Gail putting boxes in the back of her car. Hobie immediately realizes they're still moving to Ohio, so he goes into the house and creepily watches them argue like the child from The Omen. Mitch is like, "You're still moving? But what about last night? You thought because we made love last night that we were going to get back together?" And he was like, "Well, not exactly, but yeah." And then she ruins it with this little bit of dialogue. "I am so sorry. I am just a mere mortal. I make mistakes. We can't always... Not all of us can be like the great Mitch Buchanan." Are you trying to say he's like a vampire or life god of the ocean or something? Like, what are you trying to say here, Gail? It just doesn't make any sense. And they're arguing back and forth, and Hobie comes out and he goes, "Will you two just shut up? I'll go wherever you want me to go. I'm tired of all the fighting. I'm just so tired of it." And he gets on his bike and rides away. And I'm sorry, under no circumstances should you tell your parents to shut up. If you tell your parents to shut up, you're in big trouble, because you should never tell your parents to shut up under no circumstances. And Hobie should have been grounded, but of course this little brat does not get grounded or get in trouble by no means at all. And I don't like it. I really don't. So, meanwhile, Captain Thorpe has gotten assigned to Shawnee and Eddie's lifeguard tower, which just so happened to be the lifeguard tower that he was assigned to. And Shawnee has some hilarious lines in this episode, which is pretty much all of us when it comes to Captain Thorpe. "So, how long are you going to be here?" "Oh, for as long as I want to be." "Why did you choose our lifeguard tower?" "Oh, well, it was my lifeguard tower. I was here when they built the thing, and I was the first lifeguard on it." And while he's explaining this, he is sitting on a chair with his legs propped up, and his package is trying to fall out of his shorts, which is another thing I could have gone my whole life without seeing. We then get a montage of Captain Thorpe reliving his glory days. For some odd reason, the camera keeps going down, panning from his feet to his hairy legs to his shorts where his package is, all the way up to his face, which is the same facial expression every single time. And I really don't know who they were trying to appeal to with this part of the episode. So, after that weird montage, Captain Thorpe is explaining to Shawnee the history of the plastic flotation device that they had. And Shawnee's like, "Wow, I didn't know that there was a history attached to it. I just thought it was something we carried around. How did she become a lifeguard? I am pretty sure that you have to know what that thing is that you carry around and how to use it." Huh. And then she says, "Well, I really wish that Eddie could be experiencing this fascinating history with me." And cut to Eddie trying to get a girl's hair out of her bathing suit top. Which is not what I thought he was doing at first. I thought he was just trying to take it off for her because he's struggling getting the zipper down. Captain Thorpe comes over and he goes, "Oh, the old, my hair is caught in my bathing suit top. All lifeguards fall for that. But not you, right, son? Ha ha ha." And I'm just like, what is happening? So, the suitcase is still floating in the ocean, and we get 6 different scenes throughout this episode with the suitcase. Birds are landing on it, ducks are swimming by it, birds are having meetings by it, wondering what this is. And we're supposed to believe that nobody in the whole beach of Baywatch has not noticed this damn suitcase floating. Because Mr. and Mrs. Thief hasn't seen it. Captain Thorpe, Shawnee, Eddie, no one has seen it. Even though we find out in just a few minutes that it's not that far from the surface. That it's literally right there. A boat comes in and hits it, sending all the money flying, which signals our second montage. And final montage of the episode. And it's nice that even the montages actually have a purpose in the episode. Unlike last episode where they just had a random montage when the episode started for no reason. So a bunch of people are going to the ocean. And it's all lifeguards on deck, including Hobie, who at that moment is telling his girlfriend, I guess, from the previous episode, that he has to go to Ohio. And he's a little bit more receptive to the idea because him and Gail had a heart-to-heart after he told them to shut up. And he told her that he didn't want to lose her too. That he loved her too, and he didn't want to be in the middle and have to choose. He then went to the library, got a bunch of books about Ohio, and the writers could have come up with any fun facts about Ohio. Like, for instance, they got the Cleveland Indians, one of the very well-known baseball team. Or they have Buckeyes there. That's why it's called the Buckeye State. And I used to collect those when I was a kid. And we find out they're moving to Columbus, Ohio, which there's a lot of things to do in Columbus, Ohio. But I lived in Elyria, Lorain, and Vermilion, Ohio. And there wasn't a lot of fun things to do there. Trust me. So when Hobie goes, before the whole money thing happens, he goes into Mitch's office and he has all these books on Ohio, and he goes, "It's a real neat place, Dad. Did you know that one river was so polluted that it caught on fire all by itself?" This is the fun fact about Ohio that they decide to throw in there to get Hobie excited about going to Ohio. A river was so polluted that it caught on fire, which I lived in Ohio for 14 years of my life. And went to school and never ever heard anything about a polluted river that was so polluted that it caught on fire by itself. I mean, literally, you could have come up with anything. You couldn't come up with anything other than that. Ugh, so annoying. But anyway, so it is a riptide, which means that people are drowning because the water is hard to swim in when there's a riptide. And there's money everywhere. A little girl finds a $100 bill while she's building her sandcastle and sticks it and uses it as a flag, which I wanted to reach through the TV and grab that $100 bill. I ain't kidding. Sorry, that was my cell phone. Anyway, so they all run in to save people who are grabbing money like it's going out of style, which the money is wet, so I don't think that it would be very well... the end stolen, so they wouldn't be able to keep it. But when Captain Thorpe jumps in the water to go save people, he gets a cramp. Eddie tries to save him, but he says, "Go save the other people." There's this really weird exchange where Eddie is saving random extras in the water and keeps looking over at Captain Thorpe, who is stuck in the water and can't move. Water is basically hitting him in the face, and he keeps looking back. Him and Eddie keep having eye contact at each other, and he keeps going, "Yeah, it's okay. Save them, it's okay." And I'm just like, what is happening? It just doesn't make any sense at all. So, eventually, Mr. and Mrs. Thief find out what's going on, and they go to see if the lifeguards will give them back the money. But somehow they have figured out where the money came from and that it was stolen, and are laughing at it that they were actually thought they would get away with it. So they're trying to sneak out of headquarters when Captain Thorpe and Eddie round the corner. They duck into the lifeguard locker room, and Captain Thorpe and Eddie have a little conversation. Captain Thorpe thanks Eddie for covering for him and not putting him on report for the cramp in his leg when they were saving people. But then he decides to be a dick and says, "But I put you on report, son." Eddie's all like, "What? Why?" And he's like, "Because I should have been put on report. Because I had a cramp. You should never do that. You should never cover for another lifeguard, so I put you on report." Wow, what a dick. Meanwhile, Hobie and his girlfriend are led to believe that they have done something wrong by saving the girl from the riptide. But it turns out that they're just faking them out, and they get to be junior lifeguards anyway. Gale watches this exchange from the window, creepily, just like Hobie did from earlier when Gale and Mitch were fighting, so it must run in the family. Through this exchange, she realizes that Hobie needs to stay with Mitch for the rest of the summer, and she needs to go to Ohio by herself. She says goodbye to Mitch, and she says goodbye to Hobie, who gives her a book of 100 landmarks in the Buckeye State, and he tells her he expects her to memorize them by the time he sees her again so they can go to all of them together. And that's the episode, folks. Oh, sorry. Captain Thorpe eventually discovers the two thieves trying to sneak out wearing lifeguard uniforms. He almost kills them by putting weights on them, and then has Gunner and the police arrest them. And that's the end of the episode. Although this episode was a vast improvement over Message in a Bottle, and it dealt with divorce in an interesting and positive way, the whole Captain Thorpe center of the episode just felt random, and I don't understand why it was in there, especially the montage with him. Even if he was played by another actor and not the same actor and not the actor that's playing him, I still probably would be confused as to why they decided to center on this character. I really don't get it. But great acting from Wendy Malick. She was fantastic in this episode, as was David Hasselhoff. The next episode is even crazier, but I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it. I hope you have a great day, and forever and always, I'm always here.